Are you ready to unleash your full potential and become unstoppable in your success and leadership?
Welcome to the Unleashed and Unstoppable podcast, where we provide powerful insights and strategies for coaches, corporate leaders, and entrepreneurs. I'm Alexanne Carter.
And I'm Carol Register, and we're certified master neurocoaches who are passionate about helping you overcome your limiting beliefs and optimize your performance.
Each week, we'll be sharing actionable tips and strategies using neuroscience, from interviews with industry experts to solo episodes, to help you lead a life of power, purpose, and possibility on your own terms.
Join our community of like-minded individuals. Hit subscribe now, and let's be unleashed and unstoppable together. Hello, hello, hello. I am so excited to be here with you again this week. And I am bringing to you Marla Preece. She is a public speaking coach, and she's going to bring us some great information. High achiever, I know that you are always looking forward to increasing your leadership and your communication skills. And there's a lot that goes on behind that. We talk a lot about your identity. And if you caught our recent episode, we really went into using your voice and what it's like to use your voice. Mm-hmm. And so, Marla, thank you for being here. I'm so excited that you're here to dive in with us on these things.
I'm so excited to be here, Carol. Thanks so much for inviting me.
And would you dive in a little bit more and tell us where you're from and what you're passionate about, especially in regard to what you do with public speaking?
I live in beautiful, and I mean beautiful, Colorado. Love it, love it, love it here. I've been here my whole adult life. I live at the foothills of the Rocky Mountains.
Wow.
And there's so many hiking trails and so much gorgeous scenery everywhere I look. So it's fabulous. It's very inspiring.
Very inspiring. I can definitely relate because in South America, I'm in the Andes Mountains and on one of 5 large lakes, and we're surrounded by 4 glacier-covered volcanoes. So I resonate totally with this.
I love it.
Yeah, it is very inspiring. Nature is so inspiring. And so in regard to your coaching with public speaking, when did you get into that and how did you get into that?
Yeah, I don't know about your listeners out there. So I can't see your listeners or people that are watching, but I feel you. And that's really important because what I do is I help speakers come alive. That is the thrill. That is the excitement. That is the power of public speaking. And what I'm really passionate about is helping people really get into their energy of their talk. So we'll get into that in just a minute. But how did I come to this place? I'd say it started probably when I was born, but I was a great writer and I was an introvert. So I really loved my writing. And the only reason that I would go and talk about it is because I love the writing so much. So I gave a lot of speeches. I remember being in class one time in confirmation class, and they said, okay, who wants to do the end of the year speech? And I'm going, me. And look around and nobody else is raising their hands, right? Because people are afraid of public speaking. Yeah. And I, even being an introvert, really loved it. I was on stages because I was in musical plays a lot. I was a public, a practice management consultant for doctors and dentists. So I spoke around the country speaking on stages.
Wow.
But what I found was, even though I was a performer and I was good at that, I wasn't good at connecting to people. I was such an introvert. And so, yeah, this is key to being a leader and to be a great public speaker, is that connection factor.
Oh, I can't wait to dive in even more here. But I want to ask you to, like, when we're public speaking, because I'm a public speaker and Alex Leanne is a public speaker, and I know you, listener, you're high achievers, you're leading, you're teaching, you're probably speaking on a regular basis. Like, how do we come alive and connect? I mean, it isn't very intimidating when you think about it, because I know for me, it's been a process in learning how to communicate well so that you as a listener are able to really receive what I'm saying in a way that will benefit you. So I would love to hear more.
And I love that you use the word receive, because I talk about that a lot. A lot of what I do is all based on presence and energy. And people really complain about having to speak on video, and a lot of us have gone virtual, right? And it's hard. It's even harder to speak to a camera when you don't see the audience than to speak in front of an audience. It's just, it's weird. And so how do we do that? We have the intention of receiving the audience.
Oh, we talk a lot about intention. I'm so sorry. Keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
But I know we're so aligned with this. I love it. So it's not something you can intellectualize about. Most of what I do in my coaching is I take you through exercises that show you, that give you the experience of what it's like to connect, what it's like to be authentic, what it's like to master your energy, what it's like to receive instead of just give. Wow. And it's not something, I mean, we can intellectualize it about it a bit, right? So it's not that you can at all, but to really get it, I take you through these exercises and people go, oh, now I really feel what it's like to have presence. I feel what it's like to connect on a deeper level.
Yeah. It sounds like it's emotion. And, we talk a lot about the neuroscience of thought plus emotion forming our beliefs, and also how it impacts our memories and, all of our lives, and even what we're bringing towards us right now in the quantum mechanics of things. We're attracting things to us all the time based not only on what we think, but what we feel. And so it sounds like you're really different in the way that you go about teaching, speaking. And what brought you to the energy side of things? And tell me more about it not being the woo, as you put it earlier.
Yeah, people think of energy work as woo-woo. And especially, around where I live, there's a lot of woo-woo happening. And what I like to do is make energy really practical, make it so it's just part of everyday life, because it is. So let's say you meet somebody and maybe it's in a meeting or it's a grocery store and they look okay and they're dressed okay. And it's not really what they're saying, but you get this feeling, this icky feeling that you don't trust them. That's their energy.
Yeah.
And on the positive side, and we've all experienced that. And on the positive side, there's something called chemistry, right? Maybe that's how you met your spouse or someone you were in a relationship with, even, a friend. And you just immediately clicked or had chemistry. That's the energy piece. It's not that they said the best things in the world. It's not that they looked a certain way. It was this energy piece that you almost can't put into words. And that's what I help people do, is to master their own energy, because we can affect our energy both internally, you can't see where my hands are going, and internally,
and externally.
And externally, we all can master or not. We can be aware or not of our energy and other people's energy. But even if we're not aware of it, we're affected by it every moment.
Wow, that makes so much sense. And it's true. I used to play a funny game where when I was walking behind somebody on the street or in a store or beside them, I would just think pleasant thoughts, just think the thoughts, nothing else. And because invariably, somewhere along the way, I discovered 9 times out of 10, they would turn and look at me, even turning around backwards. People know it is totally an energetic exchange. Yeah. And I invite you, listener, if you've never tried that, try it. Think pleasant thoughts about the person you're walking behind or beside, and just notice if there's any kind of a response or reaction. So how did you get into the energy side of things?
Yes, I always had an interest in it because I've had experiences that can't be explained. Mm-hmm. For example, I've had visions of fire before they happened. Wow. I've had an out-of-body experience when I was younger where I wasn't dying. I just had an out-of-body experience. Wow. And other things have, I've had visions of things that happened before they happened. So things that can't be explained. So I was always fascinated by that. Mm. But where I really gained so much value was when I got trained in the art of feminine presence. Wow. Which is now, because we want to be inclusive, the art of feminine presence and the art of masculine presence. We put them together in just the art of presence. But there's 45 practices in this training. And I trained in it for years. Wow. And I teach it now. I'm a certified teacher at the highest level. And it's amazing work. So I borrow some of those exercises and put them into my speaker training, along with my psychology background, along with my neuro-linguistic programming, along with the energy work, to make this really unique program that addresses all aspects of us as communicators.
That's powerful. So I had not heard or been aware of the art of presence before, and having to do with the energy work. Got post-nasal drip, guys. That's not TMI for you, but it's what I'm dealing with right now. But that masculine and feminine energy, the art of presence, and you mentioned 45 pieces. What are the pieces? Are they trainings? Are they instructions, principles? I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, the practices, and like I said, I borrow them and put them into my training now. A lot of them are visualizations.
Okay. Some
of them are meditations. Some of them are interactions between two people. Some of them are interactions in a group. Mm-hmm. Some of them are you're just quiet and you're guided through a certain exercise. Some of them are, for example, this is something that's maybe easier to relate to. So how can you, in conversation, and this works whether it's with your spouse, your friend, your kids, or you're a speaker on a stage, how can you, in conversation, keep your ego out of it? Mm. And that doesn't mean, oh, you've got this big ego. It's just we tend to communicate with people from the aspect of what's going to happen next. What should I say next? Yeah. You're judging what's happening. You're judging yourself. You're judging the other person. How can you just stay in curiosity mode and just stay in the mode of being totally present in conversation? Mm. So that's a real practical exercise, where some of them are a little woo-woo.
Yeah. Well, it sounds very integrated, like the integrated person. And that is something that we do talk about. Alex and I talk about is a rising tide raises all boats. That's a quote by JFK. When we go to work in any one area of our life, we begin to elevate other areas of our lives. And the way you describe that process of, being still, being in exercises with another person, in a group, meditations, visualizations, how amazing is that work that you're doing as far as looking at the person as a whole being, looking at each of us as doing the work? Because I know if I just do a meditation every day, then yes, I'm going to accelerate and advance, but not to the level I can when all of this is being looked at. Yes, so
absolutely. And here's another example of how it fits into the public speaking teaching. I help people to unhook from their past.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't do it by doing therapy, by talking. It's not about talking. It's about taking you through this energetic process. And sometimes the indirect method is so much more powerful than the direct method anyway. So we take you through a process where you unhook from self-doubt, you unhook from past experiences. And it'll help you in your personal life, let alone as a public speaker, being fully present. And it'll help you to, master that energy and just, have unwavering confidence. Because I tell people all the time, if you don't have confidence in yourself, your audience can't have confidence in your message.
Yeah.
And so
that's so true.
Yes.
We're conveying that energy all the time when we speak. And I heard you, we were in a group together for an event we were speaking on, and you said something that really impacted me at the time. And it was about a particular exercise that you do, that you help people when they're learning to public speak, to engage the audience, to make that connection. And it's something that was, again, very impactful to me. I was like, I hadn't thought about it in that way. And so where did you start to understand what it takes to be such a powerful and effective public speaker in alignment with this energy work that you're doing, which I know is helping you connect?
Yeah. A lot of it started with the art of presence training. So I would get up and speak in front of the audience. And like I said, I was entertaining. I could be projecting and alive and all of those things, but I wasn't receiving the audience. And so I never thought of it in that same way as in the way of looking at it as my energy and how was I really open or not. And so I changed my body language. I changed my intention and my energy, and it made all the difference. And I'm not sure if you're referring, because there's a couple things I do when I'm in group. Perhaps it was the home space exercise I was referring to. That exercise is about being totally connected with your own internal energy. When you communicate from this internal energy and this, what I call home space, versus your head space, which is where most of us live most of the time. If you communicate from this deeper place, people feel it. You talked about emotion earlier and the importance of that. People feel a difference. Your face changes. Your content becomes more emotional. It becomes more connective language. It becomes more about how you really help people and what they're going to get from it. And not just, I'm Marla Preece, founder of Speakers on Fire Academy. This is what I do. Nobody wants that, right? So that's a little exaggeration, but so speaking from the separate place, again, it's an exercise, a visualization that I take people through that takes 10 to 15 minutes. We do a deep dive into it. And when you become really good at it, you can do that when you're preparing for your speech pretty quickly. You don't have to do the 15-minute version necessarily, but it's so impactful. And it's you become not only more authentic, but you become more of a connector and people feel it.
I think one of the things I had heard you speak about, and just want to pause here for a second, about being grounded on the inside, knowing who you are, this home space exercise in order to be able to connect. And the receiving, like you said, is so important, because I know for me, I do think in terms of giving a lot. And I don't often think in terms of receiving. And my understanding is receiving is more of a feminine energy. And whereas, when you're pointing in a direction, it can be more of a masculine type energy. And I honestly, I'm trying to think now where I was going to ask the next question because.
Well, that's such an important point, though, because women are taught to give. And so a lot of people think giving is a feminine energy, but you're right, it's not. Receiving is the feminine and giving is the masculine. And of course, we want both energies. We want to balance them. But if you identify as feminine, tapping into some of that female energy is really powerful. And if you identify as masculine, same thing, tapping into this different energy is really, really magnetic and powerful. And it's, a mistake that a lot of speakers make, and especially a lot of leaders, a lot of type A leaders, a lot of leaders that have a lot of expertise. They want to give you the information. I'm going to teach you 30 things in this half hour. I got a ton of slides, and it's give. And it's, I have to give this to you. And they're almost throwing it at you. And that isn't received well by the audience. And so how can you balance teaching and giving people value with what people crave?
Yes.
What they crave is not really anymore with all, you can Google almost anything. You can get ChatGPT to tell you almost anything, but you can't get a personal experience with anything. You can't get that connection that we crave and that validation that we crave. And that's what a great speaker versus a good speaker does for the audience. They validate them, they engage them, they connect with them, they receive them, and they create, whether they can see them or not, create this two-way conversation that makes people want more of you.
It sounds like a dynamic that is very much in alignment with who you are as a person. And man, this is amazing. And our listener, we talk a lot about leadership, about neuroscience, about wealth building. And for me, as a multi-business owner, I do stay in a very driving place. And sometimes I have to remind myself to step back and be able to receive and, trust the outcome on things, set the intention, put the vision in place, and then relax and allow it to happen.
Yes. I call that flow, besides receiving, which it is, because you're receiving not only people, but you're receiving opportunity.
Yeah.
And then a feminine quality is flow. People think of feminine qualities as submissive and emotional, those kinds of things, but that's not really what feminine qualities are. It's about being versus doing. It's about receiving versus giving. And it's about being in the flow versus being in, outward task oriented. So it's, some of these there's great qualities both in the masculine and feminine. Like I said, we need them both. Yeah. But a lot of women get a little too much in their masculine, and then it doesn't feel good.
Right. Yeah. I've heard more and more women speaking about this, and it seems to be where either we're in a place where we've lost our voice and don't know how to use our voice, or we found our voice and we can't quit using our voice. Right?
Well, don't quit. No, you want to use your voice. Yeah.
Definitely want to use our voices, but effectively, right?
Yes. And how to tap into that femininity, because, it's beautiful and it's magnetic, and it's, how can you be powerful and feminine at the same time? How can you be effective and feminine? You just go about it a little different than the masculine. And it really feels good. And that's another thing I add into my public speaking coaching. I don't focus much on it, but I do talk about the feminine and the masculine. And people, the way I work in general is people talk, and then I say, okay, let's go through this exercise, and everybody goes through the exercise, and then they speak again. And it's immediate transformation. Wow. Which is so rewarding about what I do, is because people transform like that. I don't say, here's the steps to do something, and then maybe or maybe not, they'll do it next week, right? No, It's transform in the moment in every class. And And with the masculine and feminine, the way I do it is they speak, they go through the exercise, which is very brief, and then they don't speak. They just are. And everybody notices the body language changes dramatically.
Wow.
Men look more masculine, women look more feminine, and it's beautiful. It's amazing, and it's powerful.
It's very interesting too. I'm super curious. I know that you must be curious too as you're listening to this with me. It's like, to hear about an immediate reaction, immediate result, if you will, and, those transformations that help us to create the reality that we desire. And I'm remembering now, it was an exercise where you used a physical thing. I think it was a key. You asked the audience to take a key.
Wow.
You were explaining some of the physical exercises that you teach in your public teaching instruction. Could you give us an example of one of those? Because I just found it really impactful.
Oh, well, thank you so much. So a lot of what I teach is how to engage the audience. And I see too many people do, put me in the chat, put a 1 in the chat, put, whatever in the chat. That drives me crazy. And so I don't do that. You want to engage people, and I can do that even right now. So everyone watching out there and listening, know that you have the key to become fully present. You have the key to connect with people. And so hold out your hand and imagine there is a key in your hand. If you have a key in your pocket, which most people don't, if you do, put it right there in your hand. If not, imagine it and really see it there. See that key, because you always have the key within you to be fully present, to connect to people, and to make a huge impact.
Wow.
And yeah. Another engaging thing I do, I talk about how you have to hook people in the first 5 seconds when you're a speaker. You can't wait. You don't start with who you are. You start with a hook, a whiplash. And I have people, okay, take out your hand. You no longer have a hand. You have a hook. You are Captain Hook. And some people have a little finger. Some people have a whole hand. And some people have a bionic arm with some sort of major contraption on the end.
Like that.
Whatever it is for you, you have a hook. You are Captain Hook. And that's what you're going to do every time you speak, is learn how to hook people. So you draw them in, you excite them, and you connect.
I love this. I love this so much. Are you like me, or does this just make you so excited to learn ways that we can communicate more effectively, right? That we can draw people in, because life really is about relationship and about connection. We're all connected. And, our DNA research now, Marla, shows that we are 99% the same DNA across the entire human race. The divisions that we imagine in our minds are illusions by and large. And
absolutely. We create them. Yeah.
We create them. And so having the tools and the process to be able to really engage and excite and connect. Also, it sounds like to me, in my experience, brings home the message more. And how do you put the message in there without going too far and dumping it all on them? Because I have been guilty of fire hosing people in the past, I confess.
Fire Hosers Anonymous. We got to create the group, because it's so true. I'm the same way. Absolutely. I mean, I'm so analytical. My nature is to be in my head. I have so many things to say. I want to give it all to people. And I have to say, no matter how intelligent you are, no matter how well you listen, you can only take so much in. Yeah. So we're doing a disservice to our audience when we throw too much at them.
Wow.
And so part of the trick is to chunk your material. Part of it is to say more with less. I do a whole exercise. It's not an energy work. So some of my exercises are practical, quick. They're not energy based. So I just have people say more with less. And I keep saying, pause, do it again, do it again, do it again, until they've got it really pared down.
Wow.
And it was weird at first. You're like, oh, I'm talking so slow. But sometimes that makes you get more attention because everybody's blah, 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 and they're more likely to listen. And the third thing is to take pauses. Yeah, you have to pause so it lands. And that's also respectful of the audience. When you pause, you emphasize what you're saying, and it gives you a little break, and it gives your audience the ability to take it in.
That can be so challenging when you're on the stage and you've got the adrenaline going, but it reminds me of the pause in music. Pause in music is so powerful, right?
Yes.
And this is the points that you're making and the instructions that you're giving are really, really powerful and beautiful. And I don't even want to wrap it up. I want to keep going with you.
I know, Kelly.
We'll have
Part two to be determined.
Have you back on for sure. But I would love for you to be able to tell each of us how we can connect with you and, what you're doing right now that you'd like to invite us into.
Yes, thank you for asking. I teach a boot camp, which I'm in the process of renaming because, boot camp was the cool term for a while, and now it's like it's overdone. So I always have to be evolving. But I teach a speaker group workshop boot camp, and I made it evergreen recently, so you can join anytime. It's once a week, so any week you can join. And it's so powerful because you're speaking in front of a group, and you're transforming every night in every class.
Wow.
And I also do, to get to know me better and know a little bit more about the exercises I do and my philosophy. And then I would help you in real time is if you set up a call with me. And I call it your hot or not speaker assessment. And we'll talk about, bring any part of your speech. And I'll say, that's hot. That's lukewarm, or how can we make you sizzle more?
Yeah.
And because my company is Speakers on Fire Academy, I do a lot around hot and sizzle and being on fire, fire hosing. So all of those things that's my brand. But I would love to have a talk with you and would love to find out how you can join my boot camp. That would be awesome. I do have free master classes quite often. So that's another thing. So my Linktree link will be in the show notes and you can get all that information there.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll have your bio and your links in the show notes and in our podcast newsletter. And I just want to thank you again for being here. And yeah, I want to sizzle. Don't you guys? Are you ready to sizzle? Yeah. Let's go, baby. Right? It gets exciting. And, we can have an impact on the world in the ways that are meaningful to us, in the ways that really matter and that we want to have. So thank you for being here very much, Marla. And we'll definitely have to keep that part 2 on the agenda. Oh.
Thank you so much. It's such a privilege to talk to you and talk to your listeners. I really appreciate it. Yep. Stay fired up, everybody. That's what we need. More laughter, more fun and joy.
That's right.
More impact.
More impact. Ciao for now. See you next week.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Unleashed Unstoppable podcast with your hosts, Alexandra Carter and Carol Register.
If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review and subscribe.
That's all for this episode, Wildly Ambitious Leaders. See you next week.